Hi there, this is Frank Goodwin with Mid-State Safety. And this afternoon, we need to address the new standard put out by the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, regarding the COVID crisis, the COVID plague, the COVID pandemic that is ravaging our nation and our cities and states. We need to address this at the workplace. And so today we're going to talk about COVID-19 and OSHA. And what do you do to help employees stay safe, to keep from getting infected with COVID? And then secondly, how do you keep compliant with what OSHA is laying out and the governor is laying out as standards to be safe? And so we're gonna review those things today, and hopefully we'll give you some guidelines and a roadmap that you can use. So let's take a look at what OSHA says about COVID-19. Now, this webinar is provided by Midstate, and we can't guarantee we're giving you every jot and tittle of the rules, but our goal is to provide you enough that you can follow and obey the guidelines and stay out of trouble with OSHA, but more than that, to stay safe in the workplace and keep your employees safe in the workplace. As I mentioned, my name is Frank Goodwin, and I put my contact information there on the screen. So if you need something, any questions after the class, anything you'd like to know, feel free to call us and we'll be glad to answer them for you. We do have a staff. Our staff is very accomplished. Our staff is very experienced in safety and infection control and security and all the things that help keep businesses operating in a safe mode. Now, this video is going to discuss the hazards that are associated with COVID and the rules. And we'll talk about the rules for respiratory protection, for face masks, cough etiquette, visitor restrictions. And we're not talking here necessarily about who comes into your plant, although that's part of it, but who do you visit and where do you go and how do you handle it? And how do you limit those people mingling with your employees and infecting and bringing disease into your facility? And what do you do about it? And then hand sanitizers. Hand sanitizers are vital in this kind of pandemic. And signage, social distancing, temperature control. And I'm not talking about the facility temperature. I'm talking more about your temperature. Do you have a fever? Are you sick? Are you ill? And so fever and temperature is one of the best ways to tell. Now, this next picture is 5 things that you can do to help stop coronavirus or COVID-19. Number 1, wash your hands. Wash your hands often. Wash them every time you have an opportunity to wash them and do so. If you go into the restroom, wash your hands. Before you go to the cafeteria or you eat your own lunch at your own desk, wash your hands. After you've finished eating your lunch, wash your hands. After you've finished driving the forklift, if you can do so, and you're going to go to a different job, wash your hands. If you work in the office and you use someone else's computer, wash your hands. When you're using your own, wash your hands. You know what's going to happen? You'll get chafed and chapped hands from washing them so much unless you use some kind of cream. But you might keep yourself from coming down with coronavirus. So that's your choice. So wash your hands. Now when you're washing, that doesn't mean you go in, you squirt cold water on them, slap them and dry them. It means you go in the restroom or you go to the sink where you get soap and water and you wash your hands with soap and water. Put soap on, spread it around, use warm water if it's available, and wash your hands, wash them in between your fingers, up onto your wrists, in the palm of your hands. Clean them good. Keep going until you've washed your hands for about 20 seconds. And I'm guessing this is about 20 seconds. And then dry your hands and leave that area. But the point I'm making here is 20 seconds is longer than most of us ever take. That seems like an eternity when you're washing your hands, but do so. If you're going to cough, if you're going to sneeze, sneeze into your elbow so you don't spread it around. Don't touch your face. You know, if you're going to rub your eyes or scratch your nose or bite your nails, don't do it. Don't do it. If you're going to rub your eye or if you're going to blow your nose, go wash your hands first or use hand sanitizer first. If you're going to blow your nose, use tissues and you can dispose of them correctly. Don't blow your. I've seen people blow their nose into their hand and wipe it on their pants. Not a good thing, especially when there's this plague that's getting to us on a daily basis. Then stay 6 feet apart, all right? Stay 6 feet apart whenever it is possible to do so. I realize that in the workplace sometimes you've got to look at a part, you've got to look at a machine, you got to look at blueprints, you got to look at a computer screen. You know, you may have to put your heads together periodically. Now, one thing to do is wear a mask if you can. And the other thing is, if you've got to come together, try to limit it to 15 minutes max. And then get off, separate, and do something else. Try to keep yourselves pure, you know. Try to keep yourselves free from disease. And then lastly, if you feel sick, if you get sick at work or you feel sick at home, you feel like you're coming down with something, stay home, right? Stay home. And if you're smart, stay away from your kids, stay away from your wife. Try to confine yourself and keep that coughing, sneezing, blowing, fever-driven things to your own self if you can. And try not to spread it around. And then here's a picture with the COVID virus symbol on it and a sign that says stop COVID-19. That's what we're trying to do. That's why I'm doing this video, so you can stop COVID-19. Personally, you want to ask yourself questions when you leave in the morning. You want to ask yourself, gee, can I, not ask yourself, but obey or do, can I keep 6 feet distance at work? Can I keep 6 feet distance at the mall? Can I keep 6 feet distance, in the parking lot, at school, wherever I'm going? Try to maintain 6 foot of social distancing whenever you can. Wear a respirator, an N95 if you at all possible. Now I realize that's not going to happen everywhere, but wear one if you can. Get fit tested and wear an N95 respirator. If you can't do that, wear a face mask if that's at all possible. And I know there are people who can't wear face masks or respirators for health reasons, but if you're maintaining 6 foot distance, you're helping that situation. And as I mentioned earlier, wash your hands frequently. Use hand sanitizer frequently. As I mentioned earlier, don't touch your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. And then use that hand sanitizer whenever you can. That's things that you can do every day, all day, with no consequences, no real cost. You can do those things. And then here's a good poster on how to wash your hands. I like this one because it covers everything, including, drying. Be a germ buster, all right? Washing hands is one of the best things you can do. And then the picture here on the top right is a picture of an N95 mask. The bottom left is a face mask. Either one of those works good. N95 works better, but either one of those is a good thing to wear if you can. Now, The questions I wanted to ask is when you get up in the morning, ask yourself, gee, do I have a fever? Touch your head, go take your temperature. Do I have shortness of breath? Am I coughing? Did I wake up in the night coughing? Do I have body aches? Have I lost my taste, my sense of taste or smell? If any of those things are true, you need to be tested for coronavirus. Now, does anyone in your family have those same things? Does your spouse or your children or your parents? That may be a bad sign for you, and you need to stay away from them and stay away from work until you find out that you're clear, that you're not infected. Or have you been in close contact with anyone diagnosed with coronavirus? Did you work next to someone all day last week, 2 days, with someone who over the weekend called in and said, I've been diagnosed with COVID-19? If you were, you need to go get tested. You need to stay away from work until you're given a clean bill of health. And then the last thing is so obvious. Did you go to Myrtle Beach? Did you go to Florida? Did you get on the beach near people? Were you in a big crowd? Were you in a mob? Did you have any issues in those things? And if you did, you may need to stay home until you find out if you've come down with coronavirus or COVID-19 as it's called. Now, this next picture is a picture of the symptoms of COVID-19. Fever, cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, headache. But you know what's dangerous? We look for those symptoms, and those symptoms are really a good way of knowing whether someone has that. But you could work next to someone all day long. You could live with someone. You could go to school with someone who had none of those symptoms but still has COVID-19. It does not give symptoms to everybody. So if you sat next to them or worked next to them and they didn't have symptoms, but you could still get sick, that's why you have to watch yourself. You have to diagnose yourself and stay clear, because you owe it to the people around you not to give them what you may or may not have. All right? Now, the 6-15-48 rule. It's not a rule, it's just a little catchy phrase, I guess. But, and by the way, it's not my age. I'm a lot older than 6-15-48. But you have staying closer than 6 feet. If you have to get closer to anyone and work with them or go to school with them for more than, get closer than 6 feet, try to limit it to 15 minutes max, and then get away. Try to stay no more than 15 minutes. And if you have to do that, then you need to monitor yourself for at least 48 hours to make sure you don't have symptoms. And the minute you have symptoms, get tested. Right? Now, if you see anybody exhibiting symptoms, you need to be a snitch. It's an awful word, a very negative connotation. But some people sneeze and cough and blow and wheeze and have a fever, but they don't want to lose a sick day. They don't want to use vacation time. They don't want to miss work. They don't want to miss pay. They want to stay home. And you know what? It's not fair to everybody around them. So you need to go to a supervisor and ask the supervisor to isolate that person till you can check on their health, till you can find out whether they really have COVID-19. Because if they do, they've got to go home. They've got to be quarantined. And they've got to stay away from everybody else. And then the last thing, and it's your responsibility, if you have any suspicion that you have COVID-19, then you need to stay home. You need to get tested so you can know that you're not infecting the world around you. Here's a picture of one of the best ways to keep COVID-19 from spreading, and that's social distancing. Stay 6 feet apart. Here's a picture of a classroom. I copied this off the internet because it's a picture of a Virginia Tech classroom before and after COVID. The bottom picture is how they're doing it now. 6 foot of distance between the people in the classroom. Much, much better and an excellent way to do it. And the bottom picture is, as you can know, the correct way to do it. Another way you can help is do your own part. Keep things clean. Throw papers in the wastebasket from the restroom. Don't keep dirty tissues on your desk. Don't, wipe your desk on a regular basis. Sanitize it. Don't just wipe it with a wet rag or a dry rag. Sanitize it with a good cleaner. Use some bleach cleaner or a cleaner that says it will clean and be an antiseptic. Sanitize doorknobs, sanitize your workplace, sanitize armrests and chairs. When you're done lunch, sanitize the table. Sanitize the table before you eat and after you eat. Before you eat to protect you from getting anything wrong with you, and after you eat to protect others. These things are the way we can conquer this plague. Now, there are times, or there might be times, when you won't want to be in this position. There might be times when a supervisor or the boss can ask you questions that you don't like. There may be times when he says, I want to take your temperature. And he brings up a little thermometer that's no contact and takes your temperature. You may not like that, but you know what? The law says they can do it because we must conquer this plague. And if your temperature is above 100 degrees, you may be asked to go into an isolation room until you have it taken a second time in 15 or 20 minutes. In case you might be hot from a hot car. You might be hot from the hot sun. You might be hot, heated up from working hard and not have the virus, but there's no way to check unless they take your temperature. Take it, if it's over 100, go sit in a cool room for a while, isolate yourself. 15, 20 minutes later, take your temperature. And down at 98.6 or below, you're fine. But don't feel offended when someone asks to do that. It's for everybody's good, yours and those around you. And then you might be asked about symptoms. Are you coughing a lot? Have you got that fever? Have you got muscle aches? Have you got symptoms? If you do, you may get sent home. You might be requested. The owner of the company can say, I want you tested for COVID-19. Send you home until you're tested and cleared. You might be sent home to self-quarantine. You might have to wear specific kinds of PPE that you don't like to wear. You might be told use hand sanitizer. They might give you one to put on your desk and say, use it regularly. You might have to wear a mask or a gown, and you may not like that. You might be told to limit your contact with other people. Guess what? That doesn't matter. That does not matter in these times, okay? You need to do those things. And then if they ask you to do any of them, if so, do it. Do it willingly, joyfully, and in complete obedience to what needs to be done today in this plague time. And then we have signage that we put up. We recommend you put up signs in the cafeteria, on your big bulletin board, at the entrance to your facility about COVID-19. And then if you're told to wear a mask, wear it right. All right, I put this in because it's somewhat comical, but if you're claustrophobic wearing a mask, maybe you can't wear one, but maybe you can't do the job you're doing. Maybe you have to do something else or stay home. Maybe the 6 foot contact distance will work, but you can't wear a mask with the front of it cut out. It's violating what it does. And then that means stop. Stop what you're doing and follow the rules. Now, this Virginia standard takes effect, or took effect, at the end of January, and it's going to expire in 6 months. Now, the governor's got the right to make it expire sooner, or he's got the right to extend it. And then in closing, I want to say, as I did earlier, there can be no discrimination by the company. If you don't want to follow the rules, then you know what? You go home. All right? If if you are complaining to the company, I need hand sanitizer, or I want to wear a mask, or we need more space at work, they can't discriminate against you for requesting any of those things that have to do with COVID-19 rules put out by OSHA and our government. So you can't be discharged or discriminated against or fired. But you know what? If you want to wear a respirator and it's not required, you may do so. Normally under OSHA, that's not always possible. But if you want to wear it and provide it yourself, you can. If you don't like the mask the company gives you, you can wear one that you bring from home. You can do all these things. If the employer doesn't provide it, you can. And you can't be discriminated against for that. That's important. And then, nothing in the standard limits you, shall limit you from doing the work or entering entering an area where where you think it's unsafe. If you think it's unsafe, go to the boss and tell them. And I'm sure, and I've met a lot. I know a lot of employers, and most employers want to know when an employee feels unsafe. And you know what? COVID is unsafe. So in closing, I want to say thank you for attending this. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention. And thank you for obeying the rules when you finished this class. And remember this, play it safe. It only takes a minute.